4 things that I'm loving this week. This header and design system from Scania. This designer, Nicholas Rosen, featured some of the design work that he had done for the Scania design system in his portfolio. And I found this header amongst this application header. There are a couple things that I think he's done a really great job of doing here in terms of the application kind of structure and kind of seeing like different submenus and pages within that, creating a responsive system that will kind of adapt to the different devices or environments that any of these applications might need to live on, and the fact that it is kind of agnostic to applications. I can imagine that Scania as a brand probably has a handful, maybe a dozen different apps that they use in terms, or that they kind of distribute to fleet owners or maintenance teams or individual owners or operators or whoever it is. And so having this system that can help anybody across the Scania kind of ecosystem understand and navigate their application is a A+ design in my book. And also that they have such a high level of visual design sophistication in that system. Generally speaking, I associate these types of brands with not the highest quality of design, so it's not only refreshing to see this coming from a kind of brand like Scania, but they've also done a great job of incorporating their kind of brand colors and just handling UI and kind of the visual design of the system in a way that kind of honors that brand while also kind of bringing it forward and kind of making it usable on most modern devices. This is definitely not a system that has been kind of retrofitted with a bad brand. It is a system that has been designed and elevated within the brand system to work for their products that they need it to work for. Generally speaking, like even things like the behavior, colors, hover states, all this kind of stuff has been handled in a really, really strong way within the brand to make sure that it is kind of communicated across their ecosystem. And I also just really love the documentation in general. Their documentation site is really strong, and they have a lot of really great work here showing how the system is supposed to be used for people who are not involved in the design of the system. So they can take it, implement it, and use it in a way that is consistent and cohesive. This brand identity and product work for a Y Combinator app called Cardinal. Now this is a Y Combinator startup called Cardinal, and this is an identity, website, and product MVP that was designed by an agency called Forge. I don't know exactly what the timeline is or when all this was launched, but one thing that really stood out to me about, or there are a couple of things that really stood out to me about this project. The Cardinal logo in itself. There are 3 colors in this logo. That in and of itself is actually a pretty big surprise to me. I don't see that a ton. A lot of corporate, even somewhat startup design generally has 1, maybe 2 colors at the most. So this 3 colors, pretty distinct colors, is pretty interesting to see. I'm not really sure what the mark itself is supposed to be. I can kind of get an idea that there's like kind of multiple things kind of working together. Kind of, there's like the slash, which might indicate some kind of typing or kind of code type of thing. So there's some different kind of metaphors in there, but the logo itself isn't like the strongest logo I've seen. I just really appreciate the use of color in the logo. Also, just the way they've fleshed out the identity system in general, there's a lot of really interesting ways to use this mark, use the colors, use it in icons, use it in different marketing and promo materials. So like, I think it's a really cool looking system, very energetic, very bright, very startup-y, but also just handled in a really, really good way. But also this sidebar. There's a sidebar where they can kind of customize charts and graphs, and they've done a great job of just creating hierarchy, helping you understand and see the different controls and how you can manipulate the information or manipulate the visualization that you're kind of building. But as an MVP, I think it's a very well done MVP. It looks very professional, and I think it would appeal to a lot of product. Number 3. Now, this is one that I didn't actually expect to put in this video, but I saw it a while back and I haven't really been able to stop thinking about it. And it's actually this Delta Airlines safety video. An airline safety video is not a place that I would expect to look for art direction or visual design inspiration. But the thing that really stood out to me about this video when I saw it about a month and a half ago is the quality of light and color. Now, if you've ever done like video editing or photography, you know getting light right is extremely difficult. It's a very, very specialized craft, and the people who are good at it are really, 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 really good at it. So when you have it right and when you can make it work for you, it becomes this piece of kind of emotion in a piece that you really cannot describe. I saw this quality of light and it felt just so unique to me. With all of this light, I felt like this is a truly branded quality of light. Like if you were able to set a light box or a light system to have a brand light, like a brand color, you were able to create that specifically, this is what they've done in this video. It blends this kind of feeling of infinite golden hour with like almost a heavenly look to it. And when they pair it with different scenes or environments throughout the video, either inside the cabin of the airplane or in these kind of abstract kind of studio environments, which are probably rendered, it just looks so compelling to the way they've done it, and they've kind of balanced it almost with like the purples in the shadows to create this very branded experience that I think is extremely unique. And but also speaks to the fact that every single detail can have this element of brand, an element of energy and vision that you want in your company, and that everything can communicate that. This brand identity system for Wrentree, I think I'm saying that right. Wrentree looks to be some kind of apartment, Airbnb, Zillow kind of app in Europe. And there are a couple things that I really love about this project. For one thing, the logo mark itself is actually very unique. I think it's very hard to do kind of home, abstract geometric logos in a way that is unique and interesting. It seems like there has been every geometric mark designed under the sun, and making one that stands out and is unique, I think is extremely difficult. I think they've nailed it here. This is a really unique and interesting way to create and capture negative space, and also show the shape of a home at the same time. There's also a distinct level of movement in the mark where it kind of feels like you're kind of looking off down a corridor. Their font that they're using is Ionic. I love Ionic, it's one of my favorite fonts. So I love Ionic, I think the typography is wonderful, but I also think the color is wonderful. Now, the color is a unique combination that I really would not have considered myself. They have this really brilliant orange and yellow look, but then they also bring that and taper it with some like very cool grays and a teal color that just work really, really well together. They feel like they're creating this unique, vibrant, but still homey and kind of almost like distinctly Scandinavian-like experience, but doesn't feel cold and isolating like a lot of like modernist or maybe even somewhat Scandinavian designs can feel a little bit cold and unwelcoming. There's still a very vibrant, kind of welcoming, homey energy. They've also done a great job with their website design. They're incorporating a lot of great, wonderful real estate photography, which sometimes feels like cheating because if you have great real estate photography, it's wonderful to look at. But they're also bringing in some really great classical UX or just general interface design into this with their navigation and their sections on their pages, as well as some of their more, I guess, I'm not sure if these are mobile apps or responsive, just a responsive web, but that's still even incorporating some of the branded elements like these kind of topographic maps in the background. I'm a big sucker for topographic maps. I think they look great. And number 5 is actually not something digital. It is a book. I recently finished this book. This is called The Firestarter Sessions by Daniel Laporte. This was recommended on a design blog I follow. And one of the things that I found to be really compelling about this book is that it really helps you define success for yourself. It's kind of about finding success as a creative, as an entrepreneur, if that's something that you're into. One thing that I don't particularly love about these types of self-help books is that they can be so kind of inspirational and kind of high level that it's hard to figure out how to apply it. You kind of read it and you feel good about yourself, but it's like, but then what do you do with it, you know, the next day when you're kind of back in the slog of things? The other side of that coin is that there's some books that are so prescriptive that it kind of doesn't feel like it's made for you, and it's not really helping you figure out what you want. It's more about what worked for other people, and you should do those things too. We've probably all seen those videos or posts where people say they get up at 5 in the morning or 4 in the morning. And it's like, oh, this works for me, and this is how I became a millionaire at 29 or whatever. This book, I think, would work for most of us, because what Danielle does is she has a really wonderful way of inspiring you, but also giving you practical tools and worksheets. There are literally worksheets built into this book that help you think through what you are looking for success. Because success for all of us doesn't necessarily mean that we want to be a millionaire by 29. My version of success is going to be different than your version of success. What I'm getting at here is that this feels like a kind of tailored guide to defining success for yourself building you up along the way and helping you get to that place, helping you figure out how you're going to get there. I read every chapter. I did not do every worksheet. But I think one of the great things about this is you don't have to do every single one of them. They can be thought experiments that you can sit down, you can set the book down for a couple days, be thinking about these things, writing down notes, doing things like that, and then you can come back to the book, or you can just plow straight ahead and get through it if that's the way you want to do it. For creatives, for entrepreneurs, for people who are looking to try to figure out how do I define success for myself in a way that's a little bit unique or different, I highly, 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 highly recommend this book. Cannot stress that enough. And I think I've recommended it to many of my creative friends, my design friends. So that's it for this week. If there's anything that's inspired you and that you would like to share, I would love to see that. If there's anything in this video that has inspired you, I'd love to know about that as well. And I hope you enjoy watching, and I'll see you real soon.